All right. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I am writing a book from the last video. Go check that out. And so I have got another chapter, rough draft, ready to go here. And I wanted to know what you thought about it. So let's see. Do I need context? So this is going to be talking about a beginner's step-by-step process to proving to oneself that magic exists, that the inner world of the astral realm exists, and it can be you can be activated in your awakening for this correspondence to interact with your life, and you can observe these things. So this is magic. This is the inner world of magic. That's the context. And so this is a first draft. Of course, a lot of the words and the way it's written and information should be expanded and rewritten, but I think I've got something here. Check this out. A chapter on establishing demographic of the awakened mind. There is a need to address the different types of demographics that awaken during each wave of collective ascension, each with its own resonance and compatible system of approaching an ever-expanding awareness. Each one of these demographics, not segregated in this list by any means of race, culture, or economic status, but instead by a set of basic biological, directional, and locational points of reference, all of which are common threads to understanding what is needed to expand beyond any one valence of limitation or any perception of limitation. Like I have a valence. I see things this way. That's what a valence is. I see it this way. And so we're moving past any valence of limitations. First, understanding the world from the inside out by observation, keeping in mind that every single moment is asking you to expand your consciousness through imagination and your genuine, authentic, emotional expression of actually wanting to participate, receive signs, confirmations, communicate with higher powers and sentient flows of the unobserved. To make your awareness more sharp and usable to those unseen forces, first we must approach what is inside and expand awareness from there. Very common in spiritual practice is meditation. It is the thing we learn when realizing the world isn't going to just stop being complicated for our own growth. So we go within with various exercises and too many to choose from, really. Ultimately, after learning any form of exercise, we want to break it down into ways that fit our preference, rather than only doing things by the book. This is especially important to the quantum mind because our subtle thoughts of how we perceive ourselves have more of a transformative effect rather than the functions of the previous conventional mind that feels reality is set in stone. His mind will adjust till he has fooled himself into believing it works for him by the book. But the quantum mind is more so capable of collapsing the waveform or creating a singularity where going by the book doesn't actually work in full because there is no book to the awakened mind, thus letting go of any form of conformity without disregarding the need for structure. Meditation in general depends on who you've learned your techniques from and who their demographic of approach is best suited for. For example, if you learn meditative exercise from a book written in the 1920s, you'll find the common approach was initially location exercises, where one gains a sense of awareness by either locating and observing the spaces around or locating and observing sensations of the body. Rhythmic breathing in a sort of semi-state of hypnosis was also commonplace. The 1960s brought an emphasis to expanding the imagination and altered states of consciousness, and the 80s tried to teach us that all is one and to be within is to expand beyond, but in a more cosmic, look at me, mom, I'm floating in outer space kind of vibe. Today, most teachings start off with breathing and visualization of breath. But each of these demographics is attached to a different sense of receiving these permissions for the imagination to really take hold. The deeper truth to why we start off with such simple exercises can be kind of hard to grasp. It is a safety measure. Our awareness must pass through checkpoints and with permission. Imagine walking right into a heavily guarded area and not seeing the big sign that said violators will be shot, and stepping right on the toe of the huge armed guard you didn't see right in front of you. That's not a safe position to be in, to where you ended up in by simply not being aware. To the guard, that's just rude what you did. The same would be expected in the higher order, especially once you are introduced. You must be prepared when activating a relationship with higher order, and for that we must start with the body or vessel and move on to direction, then location. The vessel in any state should be one's own first approach to observation. A simple technique is to sit for 10 minutes minimum and just observe your body. Whatever feelings arise and sensations, you observe them over an entire month, twice a day. With this, you are becoming more aware of your own body and building a discipline for routine, stillness, and expansion, building a foundation. Then move on to breathing with the same principle, each time becoming more aware of your breathing in whatever style you choose, not skipping the fact that this requires doing it and not slacking on the routine and durations. One must keep a log and journal. After body and breathing practice, now it's time for direction. The previous exercises prepare you for interacting with unseen forces. Now that you are ready and understand what your vessel actually feels like, you can start directional exercises. For starters, use the space of your room or a frequent place you feel safe in for this practice. Find east, south, north, and west directions with your device and commit the directions to memory. Then physical memory or somatic memory by closing your eyes and feeling out which direction you are facing in this comfortable place. Present yourself to these directions by introducing yourself humbly, yet with pride in who you are, as if you are royalty meeting royalty and you are proud to meet the directions. Find sincerity in your emotions, for you are now a part of a grand play or drama. That's the point. This awareness should include the fact that this is a semi-formal introduction between two forces that are willing to help each other out, you and the direction. It would be wise to actually state out loud or in your mind's eye that this is just an introduction and you wish simply to make yourself known and you agree to no actions. There are many ways you can approach this, but I would recommend you make sure you don't agree to anything and don't make an offering for any exchange. Instead, hold your arms out, both your arms out, like you're going to embrace somebody. Hold your arms out and smile in each direction as if you are receiving a round of applause. Be humble and thankful. Look down at your body and acknowledge it like it's part of the main subject in the introduction. In your mind, say, yes, this is me. You just introduced yourself to the four directions. Now study the directions and their ancient history so you know more about them. The directions themselves are now a part of your consciousness and go with you everywhere, which acknowledging from time to time will benefit. These forces are now ready to work with you for various exchanges. You can do this simple introduction exercise whenever you feel the outside world isn't acknowledging you and your efforts. Taking notes will help, but be warned against becoming dependent on this exercise, because the directions aren't here to be your crutch when you need validation. Instead, do this exercise when you have a new set of awareness to introduce to the directions. Now, all that above is for the free thinker, demographics. But what about the individual who asks, can I do magic in practice and still be whole in God's eye? Or can I do magic and still love God? This is a very valid question, and many would rush to tell you, of course. I am happy to tell you, yes, you can still love God and expand that love even more so by helping to make God more available. But I wouldn't rush this change in demographic of the psyche so fast. And that is why I point out the need for a slightly different approach for each demographic. A person with a monotheistic mentality still holds all the trap doors of a monotheistic duality, to where that battle between good and evil still resides in the subconscious. Those demons have the potential to show themselves without taking the proper steps, even if a person claims their religion let them down and they no longer believe or no longer serves them. Reaching beyond may require some finesse. For this approach, I would start by asking for God's protection from hidden evils as you work to expand God's will. This way, you are asking for permission in sequence of what your subconscious deems important. Keep a strict journal and note every thought you think goes against God. These thoughts create structure. See which ones God is willing to help you overcome first, so you may work beyond this structure safely. If you have a long list, then take your time with it. Ask for signs to proceed. When you feel you are ready, move on to the directional intro exercise. To the atheist mind, do the same thing, but instead of asking permission from God, you are asking permission from your own mind and emotions to allow you to get a taste of the world beyond. Remember, these directional forces won't prove to you that they are real unless you can prove to them that you are real in your sincerity for the grand play and participation. Take caution, because instead of demons, you might just face your own shadow. So follow the above instructions. When an atheist experiences something spiritual, it can be just as dramatic as a believer's experience, because each demographic holds a different template for how one experiences the gravity of inner change. The result in perspective could be of an equivalent to someone saying they don't mind being shocked, but afterwards claims they didn't believe an actual shock was coming. Either way, if you walk this path and aren't willing to be shocked, that's too bad. The truth is, awareness locks you onto this path. There is no getting off the path, and we all have a way in which we rationalize and integrate that truth for our personal benefit. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I got for starters. And so what I want to move on to kind of like clarifying is that it's very important to take this seriously, because you can really do some damage if you just go into it. So if you take on a magical study course, that's the first thing they're going to teach you. And in all the spiritual books from the east to the west, it doesn't really matter. This chapter covers a general approach to the different demographics of the awakened mind using a general set of parameters that everybody uses. They are interchangeable. For example, there is breathing exercises or rhythmic breathing exercises, which a lot of people still obviously use in their systems today. Counting to 4, breathing in and then releasing, counting to 4. Sometimes there's a holding of the breath, and then there's moving on to imagination and visualization, adding color to the breath, breathing in white light, breathing out black light, or there's variations of that exercise. And then even further, there is the breathing in imagination and breathing in through the skin and breathing out through the skin, or in some cases breathing in through the skin and breathing out through the feet. And I actually find that actually makes a big, huge difference when you can use that imagination. But that goes back to the location and sensation exercises, where you have to have the vessel, you have to know everything that's in the vessel first. Then, as if you're in a circle. And then you move on to a space. So that would be your room or whatever space you decide. And you think of it like math. And you think of it as if the forces working behind the scenes understands the math of the space you energetically understand, you're aware of. So, for example, you start off by understanding every point and sensation of your body until the point of stillness, until you can sit there for that 10 minutes and know every sensation that comes up, and you're still disciplined and you don't feel like, oh, I can't be focused anymore. And then you move on to the deeper meditation. Sorry, hang on one second. Okay, so that's your inner vessel, understanding everything that's in it. And then you move on to your space, where literally, if you're using your room, for example, you should know every single measurement, every single thing, item that's in your space. Because when you start to work from your vessel out to the dynamics and the dimensions, the mathematical dimensions or energetic dimensions of your space, all the things in your space become part of the subject, become part of the subject of this energy exchange. You know your vessel, that's part of the energy exchange, and now you're working in your space. That's part of the energy exchange. So further on, what I'll end up writing about is a clarification on why we need to know every little bit of inch of our space. And if there's something in your space that you're not sure of, for example, if there's information about, like, say you have a little statue of a Buddha, and you have no idea where that Buddha comes from, or a dragon or something, you have no idea what the information behind that is, and it requires some research, and you realize that research takes you to more research, you could go blue in the face. But if that item, whatever that item is, if it's a picture, if it's anything, if you are not 100% in tune with what that is and the purpose of it in your room, then that is a lack of awareness. And so that breaks the connection in your ability to create in that space. So the more awareness, total awareness of your vessel and your space allows you total creation with the forces that work in that space. Okay. And then so when we move on to direction, then we start interacting with these forces. So what I've introduced here is just the introduction. It's not an actual exchange. It's to keep you safe. If you know what it's like to exchange energies with forces, you got to kind of be prepared for that, because they are very aware, and you should be very aware that they want something. And it could vary from good to bad. And you need to be aware of what you're willing, what actions you're willing to do, what offerings you're willing to make, what awarenesses you're willing to take on. Those are the most important. The awarenesses. It's not so much about, oh, give the spirit something and they give you something in return. You have to be able to approach this direction, this force. Obviously, the first steps is total awareness, and then you have to be willing to own up to what you are willing to be aware of, what changes you're willing to make. And that's why we keep journals, okay? And that's why we keep notes of the things that the universe is showing us in real time, because ultimately that will interpret back into our space and in our vessel. The math goes back inward for the lesson, for the awareness. If you are just looking for that thing to be proven to you on the outside, and you don't take those notes, and you don't admit to yourself, hey, there's something I was supposed to be aware of when I was supposed to receive something. Your focus is only on the outside, and that eliminates that eliminates that creates this gap in awareness. Okay, so starts with your vessels, then your space, and then it moves on to direction. And so then you can interpret that. We'll just, roughly speaking, you can expand that into your neighborhood and into your town and into your state. The more you are aware of, the more awareness you are aware of, then the more information, the more work you can do. If you can't do magic in, around your town or in your job or whatever, it's because you're not aware of what's going on, and there's something that you're not looking at. You're something that you don't want to look at, and that all goes back to the interpretations of what the vessel is perceiving. So going back to the room analogy, when you're walking around that room, for example, let's say if you have a mirror or if you have a picture, and every time you look at this mirror or this picture, you get a really bad vibe, that goes back to your interpretation of the vessel. Vessel, space, direction, location. And then you can be more in tune with what you're trying to create, what you're trying to be aware of, and then moving on to this exchange, starting with yourself. That's why it's so hard to get past that one point of your vessel. Now, I've separated the mind frames. We've got the revolutionary mind frame, or we could even go back to the ancient mind frame, the revolutionary mind frame, the mechanical scientific mind frame, cause and effect mind frame, the monotheistic mind frame, the free thinker mind frame, and then the quantum mind frame. Where the quantum mind frame can exist in any of these, it needs permission to break out. On the last note, what I want to mention, because this is going to require a lot of writing, but imagine you as a child with this quantum mind frame, and you imagine before a lot of these permissions were needed because the structure doesn't exist. You're a child. If your parent or guardian or the world around you was constantly affirming the fact that you are not, obviously, you're young and you're learning, but you are a God, a seed of God, of this power, that you have the ability to age very slowly, and that you will always be healthy, and that you create magic, and that you are in one and flow with the universe, and that you expand to no limitation. Imagine if you were a child and you received those affirmations every day of your life, rather than the normal, oh, you're a year older, and oh, you have to be aware, and don't tell other people our business, and keep things to yourself, and don't I don't know, the words that come to my mind are don't expand beyond your limitations, or know your role, or be set in your place, or fly, or straighten up and fly right, was someone who used to tell me that, and that it's actually irrelevant because they never straightened up and flown right. Imagine if someone were to tell you that every single day of your life, and you grew up saying that to yourself. In your quantum mind frame, the power that would exist in your awareness, you would be operating from both the beginning of time and the end of any perceived time, or the ultimate power of existence. There is no end of time. It's only the ultimate awareness and power in existence. So yeah, and so that's basically what this sort of gets into, what this chapter is supposed to kind of clarify, is that with the different demographics, there are permissions that there's a reason why magic can't be proved, to the mind and the observation, because there are permissions that are needed to step through, and they all start with the vessel and the psyche. And so we pass through those thresholds, and then we start realizing what could have been. But if you start right now, hence why we have all these gurus, giving all these great philosophies of the mind. If you start right now and know that when you started out in this life, you had it all figured out in the end spectrum. You are a God in the future, and you are still working with that child. And in the center, you are yet a wave of vibration bringing those energies together. Imagine if you were to confirm yourself that every single day, That quantum mind brings all that power into the present moment, which is the advantage over any previous mentality that has ever existed in the collective psyche.